It has been a while since I've done this. Hello everyone! So I've not filmed a YouTube video in quite a while. Today's video is quite a controversial one, and it's something that I've put off for probably about 2 years now. I started doing conspiracy theory videos at the end of like 2016, and it's now coming up to the end of 2018, and only now have I like considered going anywhere near this topic, purely because of how like controversial it is and how like a lot of people could get quite upset with it. So before anything starts, I need to disclaim this. Views shared in this video aren't necessarily my own, they're coming from different sources and they're not my conspiracy theories. Secondly, none of it is based on true facts. There has been no official end to this investigation. It's still unsolved. 3, the nature of this video is purely for entertainment purposes. Editing this back, I've realised it makes it sound like I find this whole thing entertaining. I meant that it's not like an informational video. It is for entertainment viewing purposes. It's not like a documentary. Don't take any information as hard fact. There is evidence provided for the different conspiracies, but that's not saying that it actually did happen. I just needed to clarify that beforehand because I don't fancy being killed by the government. Now I can get on with the conspiracy theory. So Madeleine McCann started off life in 2003, and she was born into this world by Kate and Jerry McCann. Kate and Jerry McCann were both physicians. I think I'm saying that right. They lived in Leicester and they just kind of lived like a nice upper class life. The McCann family decided to go on holiday to Portugal, to this area that was described by locals as a boring concrete jungle. The families all stayed in the same complex. It was on 3 stories, and the McCanns stayed in apartment 5A. She had 2 twin sisters, and importantly, she slept on the bed closest to the window. This case is now 11 years old. I've just realised. 11. Like, I literally remember when I was 7 and hearing about this, and now I'm 18. So on May 3rd, 2007, at about 8:30, the McCanns put their children to sleep and decided with the other adults to go to a local tapas bar. It was on the resort, and it was 155 feet from the hotel. Not exactly far, but again, not in the hotel. But it was importantly so close that every so often one of the adults would go and check on the children to make sure that they were okay. At 9:05 p.m, so importantly 35 minutes after they'd left, Jerry McCann went and checked up on the children, and when he did so, he noticed that the door was slightly wider than when they'd left it, but clearly didn't think anything too badly of it. 10 minutes later, their friend Matthew visited. He saw the twins sleeping but could not remember if he saw Madeleine, which, when you're going to check to see if children are okay, you kind of do normally check that they're there. That's not even like part of the conspiracy theory, but common sense. If you're going to check to see if children are okay, you check that the children are there. When checking up on the children, Matthew would have had to have seen Madeleine's bed from the door. So to see the twin sleeping, he would have had to have seen her sleeping. At 9:15, the McCann's friend Jane went to go check on the children, part of their routine checkups, I guess, and witnessed a man carrying a child in his arms. And at 10 p.m, and this is an important one because it goes with one of the conspiracy theories, an Irish family on holiday at the resort saw a man carrying a child on the beach. Also at 10 p.m, Kate went to go check on the children. Madeleine was no longer in her bed, the first time that anyone had actually noticed this. Kate ran back to the tapas bar and shouted, "They've taken Madeleine," which already is slightly fishy, but I will get onto that. There are 4 different theories that I'm going to cover in this video, and I'll try and leave time links down below, but I'm not really a professional YouTuber in case you couldn't tell. There's an intruder, a driver, that she was murdered, or that she was sold. Theory number 1 is that there was an intruder. Kate said that when she arrived at 10 o'clock, she knew that someone had been into the apartment. She knew this because Madeleine's toy cuddle cat wasn't in the same bed as Madeleine. It had been moved, and it had been moved specifically out of her reach, so it's not like Madeleine could have got out of bed and just chucked it. Because there was such an intense attachment between those two, she doesn't believe that Madeleine could have walked off, so she believes that it was an abduction. Burglaries and robberies in the area had increased 4-fold in the month prior to the McCanns visiting this resort. It's expected that a burglar came in through the patio door, which is the one that the parents were checking through. That would explain it being left wider than previous, and also the door that Madeleine was sleeping nearest to, which explains why people would have to see Madeleine to see the twins. But when Madeleine woke up when the robbery was taking place, the man took her, and this explains the man carrying the child on the beach. It's also expected that Madeleine may have been abducted by a group of paedophiles. This very much is a conspiracy, no hard evidence. Only a couple of years prior to Madeleine's disappearance, a 10-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by a gang in that same apartment complex. So it's not exactly like it couldn't happen. On top of this, prior to Madeleine's disappearance the day before, there were 2 men prowling around the resort trying to get charity donations. They were spotted many times during this day between 3:30 and 5:30, which was literally just before the disappearance. So that could have a correlation. Finally, the last one that's kind of like speculated in this section is that she was abducted by two men who were cliented by wealthy people to try and find children for them because they're infertile. These two men were Dutch and were spotted around the resort. They were in the apartment above 5A. Right, this is the next theory. This is the driver theory. This theory is that Madeleine woke up and went to go and find her parents. Now, this tapas bar was on the resort, but it wasn't on the resort. You had to kind of go find it. It wasn't in the hotel. She wandered out of the patio doors trying to find her parents and into the street. While out there, Madeleine then walked out into the main road and was hit by a driver. The driver panicked, put the body in the car and then drove off. However, evidence for this is seriously lacking considering nobody saw anything to do with this. There would probably be Madeleine's fingerprints on the door or anything to do with that, because it's not like she's the one that's carrying out the crime. She wouldn't be wearing like gloves or anything. Pretty much a null, but I put it in anyway. The next theory is the one that interests me the most. This is the murder theory. This theory suggests that Madeleine McCann was murdered by her parents.
My web search turns something up for this theory suggests that Madeleine McCann was murdered by her parents.
Oh my fucking god, I didn't even press Siri. I didn't even press Siri. Fuck. I feel ill. Oh my god. Oh my god. So the first and big piece of evidence is that when Kate went down to the families, she said they've taken Madeleine. Now saying they've kind of... she wouldn't know at this point, like she's literally just seen that Madeleine's not there. So to say they've taken Madeleine is fishy. They searched the apartment, they searched the beach, they searched the tapas bar, and then they went to sleep until 6 in the morning the next day. Kate reported that Madeleine was missing to the local authorities at 10 o'clock when Madeleine was gone, but refused to answer any questions even though she was made aware that this would hurt the case. Again, fishy. My camera cut out, but what I meant to say before this was, this is what the police investigator asked Kate. Are you aware that in not answering questions you are jeopardising the investigation which seeks to discover what happened to your daughter? She responded with, yes, if that's what the investigation thinks. The police then decided to recreate the crime scene, which is a popular practice, like this is done in investigations, and asked Kate and Jerry to attend to the kind of like fake crime scene, which they refused to do. Jerry also claims that he did not leave the tapas bar for more than 5 minutes at a time. This was then contradicted by one of the McCann's friends, who said that Kate was moaning at Jerry for being so long during the football game. This means that Jerry's alibi is weak. Next I'll put on the screen what is kind of like described as the man, I forgot what the word is, like it's a digital representation. And then there's Jerry McCann. The McCanns then also lied to their friends back home in the UK, saying that one of the windows had been shattered when in fact there was no evidence to suggest this, and the lawyer of the McCanns had to come out and say that there was no evidence for a break-in and in fact they were wrong. A couple of days after the disappearance, one of the McCanns' friends also went to the police and said that Jerry and his friend David, who was also staying at the resort at the time, were having a conversation where they were talking very sexually and making gestures about Madeleine. This does make me kind of scared, like it's a very, very grey area and I don't want to be talking about stuff like this, but also it's important to like discuss all sides of it. The day after the disappearance, a CPS employee named Yvonne, fuck, my camera light's flashing, I might have to switch to my iPhone, I wish I was joking, fuck. Oh. Kate told Yvonne that her daughter was kidnapped despite there was literally no evidence to support this at the time. So they've said that they've taken Madeleine and that there's a couple. Right. Yvonne went to the McCann apartment as she was also staying in Portugal at the time. She was speaking to them at a time when David started whispering in Jerry's ear, which kind of suggests that David does have a part in this, and also ushered the McCanns back into the apartment so that Yvonne wouldn't have like a direct access to them. Yvonne felt that she knew David through her child services segment of her career. She even wrote a letter to the British police asking that they investigate into David Payne because she does recognise him. Yvonne even claimed that David was wearing clothes that were very similar to the man on the beach claims. Also, and this is a big one, a fund was set up for Madeleine McCann's disappearance. It was through donations, funds were raised, it was like a big thing obviously because it was a nationwide case. It was a worldwide case in fact, and the McCanns paid off their mortgage with this. They paid off their mortgage. How shitty do you have to be? The donations you get, you pay off your mortgage. On May 12, 2007, on Madeleine McCann's 4th birthday, or would have been her 4th birthday, Kate wrote this in one of her books. We ate almost in silence, concentrating on the kids. I couldn't eat much and alcohol was completely off my agenda. Fiona recalls that Jerry and I were completely shut down that day, barely able to talk, and although our friends tried to remain cheerful and behave normally to get us through it, they all felt awkward about being at this lovely villa in the sunshine in these circumstances. There was no cake, Jerry did attempt to toast but was visibly upset and couldn't manage much more than I can't even say happy birthday to my daughter before choking up. Physical loss was more intense than ever, I ached for Madeleine. Here is a photo on said day, 9 days after the abduction. That hurts my head. 3 weeks after the disappearance, they went on a European tour to talk about Madeleine's disappearance. They left the twins in the same 5A apartment, the same one that Madeleine was abducted from with a nanny. Just left them in the same town even that Madeleine was abducted from, let alone the same apartment. On the tour, Madeleine was constantly referred to as a was, implying that she was already dead, like Kate knew this. There was no evidence, she wasn't referred to as an is, she was referred to as a was. Right, new camera, new SD card, both of my other cameras have now died. So the next bit of evidence is Cuddle Cat. Cuddle Cat was Madeleine's toy if you remember, and Kate refused to walk anywhere without Cuddle Cat because the scent of it reminded her of Madeleine. 17 days before police brought canines into the investigation, Kate washed Cuddle Cat, removing all signs of forensic evidence at all on it. If Kate's story about Cuddle Cat being moved was true, then the abductor would have had a scent on Cuddle Cat. Finally, there are the dogs. One of the dogs was sent to smell out death, basically, and one was sent to smell out blood. The dogs sniffed out blood on, wait, I need to check this, behind the apartment couch, in the bedroom, in the wardrobe, the patio, the rental car key, and the car itself. There was a smell of death in the wardrobe, patio, behind the couch, the steps leading from the patio, the bedroom, the back garden, 2 pieces of Kate's clothing, one of Madeleine's t-shirts, and even Cuddle Cat herself. Even the toy. And lastly, out of every car in the packed garage, the dogs only led to one car, the McCann's rental car. There was a scent of blood and of death in the car boot. Finally, this is the last theory of the whole case. It is a long one. There's the theory of sex trafficking. There's a huge theory that Madeleine was simply born as a pawn to her parents. Born as in P-A-W-N. She was born and raised simply to be sold on to sex trafficking. Madeleine was raised until she was of the right age to sell to somebody who would obviously want her, like, I don't have to go into details of that, for big, big money. There's interviews of Kate describing Madeleine as being round and compact as a baby, and she talks about Madeleine's perfect little genitals, in the context which I'll put on the screen now. I'm not taking stuff out of context. Police told Joe and Kate not to release the picture with Madeleine's eye deformity, as the huge publicity of it would scare the perpetrator into killing Madeleine. What do Kate and Jerry go and do? They make it the press photo. Jerry even went as far as saying the photo was a good marketing ploy. The main bit of this though is that near the resort lived a famous chef. His name was Sir Clement Freud. He lived not far away from where the McCann's staying, and most importantly was a big paedophile. 2 months after Madeleine went missing, Jerry and Kate went for a meal round at this man's house. They were invited again, but weren't allowed to go because they were now suspects in the whole case, if they weren't beforehand. A big thought of this conspiracy is that the McCanns invited all their other kind of like rich friends, all of their kids, to kind of distract from the situation of what was going on. The high amount of people there acted as kind of like a camouflage, if you like. Therefore, when the child went missing, because there are so many children, the parents could just be like, oh, like, whoops, like, we lost count. Not that you should really do that, but it makes it more kind of like excusable. They then went to the tapas bar and let the chef do whatever he... Oh, I can't even talk about it. But he got too heated and murdered her. Therefore, they went back to the hotel room, hid the body in the wardrobe or wherever they fancied hiding the body, and cleaned up the chef's mess because of how much he obviously paid them. Like, they were just like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. The reason why Jerry was so long watching the football was because he was tidying up the chef's mess. Kate then left and then returned, making up that Madeleine had gone missing, and that is the theory of Madeleine McCann. Still to this day, nobody fully knows what happens. There's a lot of speculation around Kate McCann, and there are probably a lot of other theories surrounding it, a lot of which you can find on like Twitter or Reddit, wherever you fancy looking. I haven't ever done a video on this case purely because it scares me, both the case and what would happen if I published this video online. But you know, if you found this video useful, I was about to say if you enjoyed this video, but nobody in their right mind would enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below any video suggestions. I've kind of been off YouTube since I've started work because I needed to like get into the flow of everything, but hopefully I can return, although I'm not saying anything because I've been down this road many times before. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. I don't know why I milli rocked them, but we'll go with it.